Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your dastardly scoundrel hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Today we will be thieving left and right and breaking arbitrary rules in many other ways as we join two particular groups of outlaws doing forbidden stuff. First, I will accompany a doctor and a mushroom keeper, trust me, it's more exciting than it sounds, on their journey to discover the cure to a deadly disease in the post-apocalyptic freak show Sabikui Bisco. And after that, John will reintroduce us to our favorite band of bandits as Lupin and his merry gang return for the long-awaited sixth part of their misadventures. Can they steal our hearts away once more, as they did with part 5? We shall find out that and more, so don't pause the pod, we'll be right back. In the far future, most of Japan is ravaged by rust, a deadly plagued wind which affects everything it touches, including humans, has transformed the once prospering country into a barren desert and left its civilization in tatters. It is believed to originate from mushroom spores planted by the terrorists called mushroom keepers. The young doctor Milo Nikoyagani tries to find a cure for the affliction caused by the rusty winds and one day runs into one of the hunted outlaws called Bisco Akaboshi. Milo soon finds out that not everything is as the government propaganda is making it out to be, as Bisco's teacher and father figure Jabi is also afflicted by rust, and so Bisco is on a journey to search the wastelands for the legendary Sabikui, a mushroom said to devour all forms of rust. To achieve their common goal, the pair will have to contend with the unforgiving environment and their fellow wanderers, as well as their pursuers, in order to make it back alive with a cure for mankind. So yeah, the original source material for Sabikui Bisco is a light novel by Shinji Kokubo. Very strange last name, I guess, I've never seen that before. Which started its run in March 2018. At this point counts 8 volumes and is still going. There's also a manga adaptation that was written by Kokubo as well and illustrated by Yusuke Takashi that started in 2019 and is currently in its part 2 run. That is still running, counting 5 volumes as a whole. I assume the anime is more based on that than on the light novel, but I'm not sure since I haven't checked out either of those. The anime adaptation, however, is produced by Studio Naz and Oz, or N-A-Z and O-Z. Don't know how to pronounce them. I mean, that can always be tricky with anime studios. We recently heard from Ufotable themselves that it's actually supposed to be pronounced UFO Table, so fuck us, I guess. Getting close to a GIF situation here. Anyway.
Oh no.
Anyway, Oz seems to be a new studio. At least Sabikui Bisco is their only credit so far, but they might also just be an offshoot of Naz, just like Cloverworks is a sub-studio of A1, so I'm not sure. But yeah, Naz we have mentioned on this show before, at least twice. They helped out on a lot of stuff with in-between and second key animation, but they also actually headlined shows like Dramatical Murder, Hamatora, Engel, and ID Invaded, the latter two we reviewed. And their animation is usually decent, if a bit uneven. That's what I remember from Engel and from ID Invaded. Basically looking good, but there was some wonky animation here and there for these shows.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Bisco, however, looks visually stellar. The character models are sharp and cool, and the environments colorful, vibrant, beautiful, and varied. There are old temples, neon-lit cityscapes, deserts, snow plains, ruined subway stations illuminated by green glow shrooms. There are some darn neat landscapes in this show. There's also a lot of endearingly weird and fucked up fauna in this series. Like, Bisco rides a giant crab called Akutagawa, who's his bestest bud. There are planes that are half slugs, half, well, planes. Yeah, I don't get it either, John. But yeah, there are also hippos with machine guns mounted on their backs. Giant spiders, giant flying blowfish, a giant flying snake dragon thing with human fingers and feet dangling on its side. Yep, exactly that. It's some wacky shit. The fight scenes are bombastic, fast-paced, and there's some wild and ridiculous stuff happening every other minute. It's a great-looking show. Actually, I think some of UFO Tables people helped out on this as well, if I'm not mistaken. There are some moments in certain action scenes where you see some shortcuts being taken, like some clever edits here and there, so focusing more on the impact of a certain move than the character actually doing said move. You know the deal. Like they see character like winding up a move and then the next cut is them actually hitting instead of actually showing any animation or that. But it looks good, and it looked kind of familiar in terms of direction style. And I don't want to make assumptions, but the director is Atsushi Ikariya, who was also an animation and episode director on Akame ga Kill, The Devil is a Part-Timer, Fate Zero, Code Geass, and a key animator on a bunch of other stuff. So they definitely had someone at the helm with enough experience to get the most out of a scene, even if the personal budget on that show maybe was not as big as they made it look to be most of the time, which is neat. Like, some weird directional or writing choices are in there, though, and I'll get to that in a bit. But overall, this is a really good-looking show, a really well-paced and really good-looking action. And, again, some incredibly wild shit. Especially in terms of creature design and environments and everything. So yeah, it's cool stuff. The soundtrack is also great. It's composed by Hinako Tsubakiyama and Takeshi Ueda, who haven't really done much else until now in the anime landscape, apparently, aside from an ED and some insert theme songs on other shows. So if this is their first full anime OST, kudos. It's a banger. Pretty varied as well. Some rocking stuff, some nice gems, some atmosphere building pieces. It's good shit. So yeah, overall, this is basically maybe a road movie show-esque thing. It's a treasure hunt. It's an adventure show. There's a lot of fighting. It's set in a post-apocalypse setting. So you got a bunch of different genres and influences here. But mostly it's fun. Like, Sabikui Bisco is a roller coaster ride. It's super fast paced. There's barely any downtime, really. And there's something funny or fun happening in each new episode. So one thing I can absolutely say about the show is I was never bored. And yeah, we got two main characters. We got the aforementioned Bisco, of course, who is like this, well, his last name, Akaboshi, I guess, could be redhead or redheaded, I guess. That is also the color of his hair. And he is very hot-blooded. Gets irritated very fast, as is the case for shonen-esque protagonists with red hair, I would say. He's very reasonable most of the time, but he can get agitated pretty quickly. So make of that what you will. He's also a very excellent fighter. Like, he's a very good marksman. He basically hits everything with his bow that he wants to hit, and he shoots these arrows that can basically spawn mushrooms immediately at any place they hit. And he can do anything with that, really. He can use these mushrooms as a matter of transportation so that he gets catapulted into the air. He can use them to kill things, like just shoot the arrow into them and then mushrooms sprout inside of the creatures and they just, get consumed by the mushroom, or all their organs get destroyed. You can imagine. I don't have to explain it in every gruesome detail. But yeah, there's some gruesome stuff in this, I guess. But yeah, that's what he can do. And like I said before, he is on this quest because he wants to save his teacher, also obviously father figure, best friend, whatever, at least to that point, Jabi, who is this old, very spry, also mushroom keeper, who seems also be a very cool character in his own right. He's not that much in the show, but when he's in there, he's fun. And you can see that he and Bisco have a very good relationship, and that he means like the most to Bisco. And I'm really glad that the show actually goes into, like, actually lets us know that these two characters have a very good, healthy kind of son-father relationship, or father and adopted son relationship. And it's really nice. Bisco kind of comes across most of this time at the beginning as a bit of brash and, defensive maybe in certain parts, and like he's not very I don't know, like he doesn't want to let people get too close. But it's the opposite with Jabi. I mean, he's sometimes throwing some harsh words at him, but you get the feeling like that he really cares for him, and that, you know, that he means the world to him. So that's nice. That's a really nice thing, and that comes through in the show several times when they interact, when he talks about him, and so on. So it's really nice to have, like, I guess, a healthy father-son relationship in an anime, which is kind of a rare thing, I guess. So I'm glad that it's in there, and those two have it. So yeah, that's really cool. On the other side of things, we have the blue-haired, again, protagonist with blue and red hair. Like, you know the deal. It's a trope, you know. Milo, who is a doctor. A lot of people in the show just call him Dr. Panda because he has like this black ring around one of his eyes, which makes him look like a panda, I guess, or panda. And he has a clinic in the city and is trying to cure the people of Rust. He has apparently already developed some medicine that at least can keep the symptoms of the disease at bay for a while. But so far he hasn't found a full cure. So he's very motivated to find that. The biggest motivation probably his sister being afflicted by the Rust. And it has progressed already very far. Her name is Pau, and she's like the chief of the city guard, I think. Like she's a strong fighter, probably even stronger than Bisco. And the first time we see her, we already see that the Rust has pretty much covered a lot of her body. And Milo's trying to, of course, cure her. He procures mushrooms on the black market from some dealer to do some experiments, which of course is forbidden because mushrooms are considered to be highly illegal and the cause for all the spores. But as you can imagine, there's more to that than what, the setup makes it seem to be. Like that is spread by the government everywhere, that they are the cause, that the mushroom keepers are the cause. But that is pretty obvious that is not the case once we meet Bisco, because he's an obviously good guy. He's not, your super evil terrorist, neither is Jabi. So you can assume very quickly that the mushroom keepers have been framed. The question is why, and the question is by who. And that's also one of the mysteries in the show that we're trying to unearth. Although it's pretty clear very quickly who the bad guy might be. What we don't know why he did it. And so it's pretty neat. So these two meet up when Bisco invades the town to search for, I don't even know how he ends up, why he wanted to enter the town. I forgot the town's name, actually. Why he wanted to enter it in the first place. I think it was just part of his journey to search for the Sabikui, for that mushroom, for the Rust Eater. That's how they translated it. And then he gets caught by the guards at the checkpoint, and Jabi gets shot when protecting Bisco. And then Bisco tries to find a doctor that can save Jabi's life, at least temporarily, at least from the gunshot wounds, not from the rust, but from the gunshot wounds. And yeah, he stumbles over Milo, and then they hit it off, so to speak. Milo, of course, saves Jabi's life. And then basically Milo gets filled in on Bisco's mission, and he's like, hey, I want to help you. I also want to find the Rust Eater, and I want to make medicine from it and cure everyone in this town and all of humanity if possible. So that's an admirable goal. And Bisco is kind of reluctantly taking him along in the beginning because he's like, no, this is a dangerous journey. You have no idea of what is out there. You are a city boy and you don't know what you're doing. So I can't, you will be trouble if I take you along, and so on. But Milo can be very insistent and headstrong. So, which is also one of the very fun parts of the show, is those two butting heads several times. They become friends very quickly. Like they have kind of, like I said, the same mission, and they're a bit different in terms of attitude and character, but they're both really good guys and they care for the people they love and so on. So they match up rather well at some point. But still, there's still some things that they don't necessarily see common ground from the get-go. So yeah, that can happen. So there are some fights that happen. It's especially fun in the scenes where Milo is like completely oblivious when it comes to the dangers that lurk outside of the city, because he just stumbles into some super dangerous traps and stuff like that, which gives, of course, Bisco super head scratcher moments. But on the other hand, Milo manages to save Bisco's ass several times after a while, because he evolves pretty quickly, and he befriends Akutagawa, which in the beginning doesn't want to have anything to do with Milo. Like, not at all. Just throws him off all the time. It's funny. And they become buddies, everyone, and then, they're hunting for the Rust Eater. And it's pretty much most of this show. Of course, they run into some other people. There are some problems because they're pursued by some bad guys and by Pawu, who thinks that Bisco kidnapped Milo. Of course, why wouldn't she think that? But that's pretty much what we get. I had a bit of trouble getting into this show. I mean, I liked what I saw, but the main problem, or the reason for this, was the first 3 episodes are very weirdly structured. We get like this weird mix of current events and flashbacks. We see stuff that happened before Bisco and Milo meet up, like Bisco getting caught at the checkpoint and then battling a giant slug plane and Jabi getting shot and so on. But we don't see those moments in chronological order. These are interspliced with the scenes where Milo procures the mushrooms and talks to his sister and so on. But they happen all before that. And there's some other things that happen during these moments that make it very hard to parse. Okay, in which part of the timeline are we right now? Like, what is this already past the part where Bisco got caught, or is this already new? And it jumps back and forth between, even after Milo and Bisco matched up, we see some flashbacks to earlier scenes. At the checkpoint and everything. And that is a super weird decision, and I don't understand why they did it that way.
I feel like I had a similar issue with another show we talked about at one point, and I can't pull it out of my head now.
There are some shows with weird flashback scenes occasionally, but this is one of the weirdest one I've seen in a while, because I don't quite understand why they did it. Like, the only thing I can assume that makes sense to me in a way is that they wanted to give the characters a more even amount of screen time in each episode. And if they had only done it chronologically, the first episode would have probably mostly just been Bisco. Would have been him going to the checkpoint, him being caught at the checkpoint, fighting the machine gun hippos, sure, fighting the slug plane, sure, and then trying to get into the city, fighting the personal guards of the governor, and so on and so on. Then at the end of the episode, finally meeting up with, or even in episode 2, meeting up with Milo. Probably we would have just met Milo at the beginning of episode 2. So maybe they wanted to distribute the screen time of our 2 main characters, and they are both our main characters, a bit more evenly. That's the only thing I can think of. It was purely chronologically, that wouldn't have been the case. But in my eyes, it wouldn't have been that important. Like, it's not that important that they are like on screen, that we immediately get also introduced to Milo. We could have just gone with Bisco first. I mean, the show is called Sabikui Bisco. It's not called Sabikui Milo and Bisco and stuff like that. So it would have been fine if we've met a guy called Bisco in the first episode. It's like, oh, that's our main character. And then we get introduced to the next one after that. And there would have been enough of a mix of action scenes and Bisco talking to Jabi and so on to make it not only an extravaganza. It's really weird. And the disorienting jumps back and forth in time and place with the same characters at that. Like, it's not like only, we see this one character and then we do a jump back in time and see another character. No, sometimes we see one character in, the current timeline, a Bisco maybe, or someone from the guards or something like that. And then we see that same character, like, after a cut, but it's a completely different time frame. Like, it's much earlier. And you're like, wait, was there edit? Is this a different scene? Like, or are we still in the same scene? What's happening? Because it's the same character. And that super weird decision. I didn't get it. Like, it doesn't do the show's first couple of episodes any favors. Like, the probably weirdest choice they make is to do a lead up in the after credits teaser in episode 3 to an event that happens at the end of the 4th episode, which in itself is totally fine. You can do that. And many shows have done that. That's totally fine. But then they don't repeat that lead up scene in the 4th episode, and it feels like scenes are missing, because they technically are, because they played them at the end of the 3rd episode. But usually in other shows, they just repeat those scenes again when it comes to that chronologically. And it feels incredibly disjointed. Like, most of the flashbacks are done by the 3rd episode. But then they do this weird thing, and then it's just like, no, we're gonna show this scene, this fight scene, or part of a fight scene that happens at the end of episode 4. We'll show that at the end of episode 3, and then we don't show that scene again when the fight actually happens in episode 4. So it's just this weird choice of direction and editing. I don't get it. Like, it doesn't kill the show or anything. Not at all. It's just, like, very confusing. And for some people, maybe it was like, took some time to get a grip on what the show is doing there. And at the same time, I'm like, just, why, guys? Why, though? I don't know if it was like that in the source material, or if the original author is to blame, or if it was the director, or Sadayuki Murai, who wrote the screenplay, who is a veteran, wrote for Cowboy Bebop, Durarara, Knights of Sidonia, Natsume's Book of Friends. So he should know what he's doing, but this was just a baffling way to introduce this show and these characters to us. I didn't get it. It's really weird. Like I said, it doesn't kill the show, but it sticks out like a sore thumb in an otherwise really well-structured show. That is a lot of fun. So, yeah, I still don't get why they did it. It is, in my eyes, completely unnecessarily confusing. And, yeah, it's weird. And if you are one of the people who checked out this show, maybe first episode or first 2 episodes, and were like, what the fuck is going on? I can't jam with this direction style. I can't jam with this editing. It's super confusing. Give it a chance. It stops at least after episode 4. Kind of mostly does after episode 3. At least then the flashbacks end. And then they just have this one weird scene that they take out for some reason. But yeah, the first 3 episodes are a bit of a mess because of that. But I'm glad I got over those and stuck with the show, because like I said, it's a lot of fun. Bisco is fun, Milo is fun. With Milo, you understand that he cares a lot for his sister, but he also grows very close to Bisco. Actually, much closer than I expected in terms of actually verbalizing his feelings for Bisco at a certain point. And which I appreciated. I was like, what? Okay, that's rare. So, super sympathetic characters. The side characters as well, I already mentioned pretty much all of them. Pawu she is, in the beginning, also a bit problematic because she's written and played like a thick-headed dumbass. Yeah, she doesn't really like to bother with questioning her preconceived notions and loves to believe any bullshit tale that enforces her ideas about certain things. Like, she sees Bisco and he's like, terrorist! And he's trying to explain shit to her, and she's like, I'm not listening to you, terrorist! Shit, that kind of behavior, basically. And it makes her pretty annoying in the first couple of episodes, which is a shame, because she's a kick-ass fighter, and her design is super cool. But thankfully, that attitude doesn't last too long, and she gets the bigger picture after a while. Once she sees, once her brother fills in, when she actually sees that Bisco protects her brother and everything. So, yay, character development. So by the end of the show, she, again, is a super cool character, finally, or at the halfway point already. So I was really glad that happened, because in the beginning I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, why do you have to be so stupid? But, yeah, thankfully that changes. There's also a character which is super fun. In the beginning, she's called Jellyfish, although we later learned that her real name is Tyrol. And she's kind of like this peddler, I guess. She's trying to sell wares, but also she has like this... When we meet her, she's part of the bodyguards, kind of the special soldier group of the governor. I don't know how she got in there. I think because the plane that actually shoots Jubby belongs to her. But that plane gets shot down, so then she has to travel the land on foot again and has to sell her wares that way. And then our two characters meet her on the way, buying some wares for her and so on. And she takes along for a while. And she's super cool. Like, the three of them make a fun team. And like I said, she's a good trader and a mechanic. She helps them and everything. And I would have loved for her to join them permanently. I mean, she returns later, but I wouldn't have minded her being part of the core group the entire time. All of them have a really good dynamic. And I like one of the episodes where they meet her on the road is super fun and charming, where they try to reactivate like this underground train together, and like they hang out and they talk to each other, and you have some nice interaction with her and Milo and with Bisco and her and everything. And she's kind of ashamed of her real name, and it's really nice that they make her feel welcome and everything. So it's just an overall really, really neat and cool time. I mean, they also take jabs at each other, but overall it's like a very cozy atmosphere, and you're like, oh, this is nice. This is a cool group. I would have liked them to be like this trio of hoodlums that just go run through the land on the search for a magic mushroom and just do a lot of nonsense. So that wouldn't have been beat. I mean, Bisco and Milo are fun on their own, but she would have been a really great permanent addition. So yeah, I wonder if in the later course of the light novel or manga adaptation, she will play an even more prominent role. But at least she's there in the finale, so that's cool. So she's neat. And then we have the super obvious fucking bad guy. Like, from the get-go, like when that guy appears on screen, you're like, okay, there we go. And I mean, his name is even Kurokawa. Yeah, well, when you're like your name is Black River and you're a governor and you have like these shady troops around you that just shoot before asking questions, and yeah, he's a ruthless piece of shit. And guess who's voicing him?
Who could it be? Could it be the one, the only, the no baloney Kenjiro Tsuda?
Yes, of course. Of course.
I know if you're wondering why I know this, is because I saw a clip on the Crunchyroll YouTube channel, listeners.
Mm-hmm. But also, it would have been a valid guess. So
yeah.
But yeah, Tsuda is reveling in this performance. Like, that man is not just chewing the scenery, he is gobbling down the whole effing countryside. Like, he's very enjoyable and easy to hate, which is what makes a good villain, I guess. And it makes all the physical abuse coming his way all the more satisfying. And man, there's a lot of that. I actually can't remember if I've ever seen the main villain of an anime get so mercilessly pummeled in multiple scenes. It's great. It's fantastic. Man, he gets a lot of shit done to him. Like, and everything is well deserved, don't get me wrong, but it's like, whoa, you're not gonna let him get away apparently that easily. Like, he appears on screen and pretty quickly after that he gets punched in the fucking face. It's glorious.
You love to see it.
Yeah, you absolutely love to see it. It's fantastic. So we need more of that, actually, I think, in anime. Not so many aloof villains who like have these moments of grandstanding and then just disappear and like, looming threat in the background. No, just have them appear and then our heroes already fucking punch them in their faces just from the get-go. And the fun thing is he doesn't become a joke. He still stays threatening. Because he has a lot of arsenal, he has a lot of people in his pocket and everything. So he's not like this Team Rocket character or anything. Like, he is very dangerous, but also he gets punched a lot, which is great. So I liked him, and I liked what they did with his character. So that was pretty neat. Yeah. I don't know how much more I can say about the show without going into spoilers. There are some neat things, like I said, the battles are fun, and the treasure hunt itself is fun, and what they do with our main characters is really neat. And it's a very short, tight story. That's pretty much all I can say about it. It's very straightforward. Our characters have a straightforward goal. They meet some characters along the way. It's a road trip adventure story. we see them traveling through some interesting vistas, fighting some interesting monsters, and then there's like this big action climax at the end of this season or series. I don't know if it will get a continuation, but it's super fun. I was never bored. I had a really good time. The soundtrack kicks ass, and I can't really say anything bad about the show aside from the first couple of episodes being really wonky and confusing in terms of structure. And once you get over that, it's a pretty straightforward, easygoing, well-flowing ride. Like, I guess there's this one thing, like the show kind of does away with explaining things in its final act. So some stuff happening feels a bit random and Deus Ex Machina, which, considering our talk about Demon Slayer last time, might rub you the wrong way, but if you watched it, but I had a good enough time that it didn't bother me too much. And I mean, the show starts with the guy using mushroom arrows to fight machine guns sporting hippos. So you kind of should expect for things to get even more wacky, and they do. So it's not like, oh, this is so fantastic and ridiculous now, I can't watch this anymore. It's like, no, I saw from the get-go what that show was offering me, and I got that. So that's fine. That's great. And it's a lot of fun. And mostly a lot of fun characters and them interacting with each other, and then the action scenes that we get. And again, it's a really good-looking show. Just some really, really cool stuff in there, visual wise. So,
I mean, I'll say I passed on the show, but that one clip I watched, I went to you. Did this show like not so secretly go super hard? And you were just like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So maybe at some point, I say maybe at some point I'll watch past shows, and I know that's not true, but I wouldn't mind looking up this show because it sounds like a wild ride.
Yeah, miracles do happen. I mean, and it's a very quick watch. It's only 12 episodes, and they just breeze by because there's constantly something happening. If there needs to be, if we need moments of, of leisure, of quiet, of a bit of introspection and so on, they are in there, especially when it comes to relationship between Bisco and Milo, and we see some flashback to, Bisco and Jabi's relationship and so on. So these moments are in there, these downtime moments, but they're, only as long as they need to be. And then something new, interesting, or funny happens. So it's really cool. And it's a really, really good, even mix of good things and really well paced. And yeah, that's all you can hope for, and especially considering like the original source being a light novel, and we had a lot of shitty shows based on light novels, and this is so far a really good one, and it doesn't need a continuation really. Like the show ends on an open note, I guess, but also not necessarily. Like they could just end it here, and it would be fine. So if we don't get any more of this is also super okay. Then you can watch it as a single standalone thing, and it's fine. And yeah, so that's also good. I wouldn't mind it getting more seasons. Absolutely not. I would keep on watching this. Absolutely. But yeah, if we don't get any more, I'm also happy with what we got so far. So yeah, that's really cool. There's a really badass line in this show at the very end, uttered by Pawu, but I can't say it because it's a spoiler. That's such a shame. But if you come across that, dear listeners, you will know which line I mean. And it refers to a certain thing she does with a certain character. And it's one of the best, daring, straightforward, badass lines I've ever heard. Like, just fucking cool. So yeah, I love that. By the end, I really loved her character. Had a bit of a rocky start, but after that, she got really cool. Everyone got really cool. Like, I liked all of the main side characters. Like Bisco, I like Milo, I like Jabi, I like Jellyfish / Tyrol, and I like Pahu by the end. And the Kurokawa is a cool villain. So yeah, cool assortment of characters, cool action scene, cool, neat little adventure story. What more do you want? So I don't know what else to tell you to get you to watch this show, but I highly recommend it. And Yeah, these are sure some smooth criminals, and I would like to accompany them again on further adventures.
So from one band of misfits to another, it's time for Lupin the Third Part 6. And what could it be about this time? Well, the infamous Arsène Lupin III takes his gang of thieves to Great Britain to investigate the existence of the Raven's hidden treasure. The Raven, an underground society rumored to be pulling the strings behind the British government, has evaded Lupin's grasp for nearly 10 years. But finding clues proves difficult when he is pursued by not only Interpol's Inspector Koichi Zenigata, but also MI6, Scotland Yard, and Britain's finest, the consulting detective Sherlock Holmes, who appears to have his own score to settle with the gentleman thief. As you might be able to imply from the title, this is the 6th main Lupin III series.
Which is why this is a spoiler show, people, because technically this is a sequel. And we can't tackle each Lupin show as a new one, so we're gonna go full spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, you can at least listen to our review of part 4. I don't know if we spoiled anything in part 5.
I mean, well, the story was told differently in parts 4 and 5.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's some ties back to them. Like, we see a couple of characters that
Albert
reappear.
is there.
Yeah, Albert we see only for like 1 or 2 episodes, though.
Yeah, he jumps in like in between. It's like, hey, I am acting on behalf of France or whatever. So, and they have a beef with Britain, so that's why I need to be here. But aside from that, he's not really doing anything. It's just like, he's there and, oh, I guess Lupin's beefing with Holmes. All right. It's like, okay. that's kind of his whole role in this.
Yeah. So apparently the story is that Lupin is a wanted man in jolly old England because...
like everywhere else.
But in England in particular, because he may have had a hand in the death of Holmes' partner, you may know, Dr. Watson.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
who left his daughter behind.
Yeah, he left his daughter behind for Holmes to raise in his stead. And it's really kind of weird trying to follow the plot in part 6, which I'm just going to get right out of the way. So we have this A-plot with Sherlock Holmes and Lily and the Raven.
Marked by a subtitle called Holmes vs. Lupin III on all the episodes. Ostensibly all the episodes where that is the case, but also not really.
Yeah, because they kind of jump around a lot. Yeah. And the through line on the story gets really muddy.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, the setup is simple enough. It's like, hey, here's the secret organization, and they are doing some shit apparently and killing people. There's an executioner going around, killing people that know too much about this thing called, what was it, Black Room or something? And there's some deeper mystery apparently behind that. So, yeah, that's what's the setup for this. So it's basically about, okay, who's the executioner? What's the mystery? How does Lupin figure into this? And Holmes also trying to figure out, did Lupin if Lupin killed his friend Watson? If the Raven was somehow involved, what is all happening? And Lily also figures into that because she has memory loss, but once she sees Lupin, parts of her memory are triggered again, and so on. So that's basically what's happening throughout the main plot. They slowly unearthing this mystery. And, you know, Holmes is, in the beginning when we meet him, kind of like still very much affected by the death of Watson, I guess. He's still kind of like more... has made his, you know, mystery solving more of a straightforward business thing so he could take care of Lily, but that doesn't make him really happy, and he looks a bit rugged, and, worn down.
Yeah, he's had a hard life.
Yes, he had a hard time. Understandably so. Was his best friend and get killed. That would make anyone, feel a bit down. So that's understandable. But as soon as Lupin appears, he gets like the drive to, and the stuff with the Raven happens. He gets the drive to get up to his old big mystery solving shenanigans and everything. So that's what all of this kicks into gear. And I want to say, the beginning of the show, like the first couple of episodes, had me hooked, as most Lupin parts do. Where it's like the first episode where we have like this giant, incredible looking car chase. Like, holy shit. Like, that put a lot of other shows in terms of car chase and everything to shame. And there are a couple more in this season, but not as good as that first one, where it's like super kinetic and everything, and super well edited and directed. And I was like, holy shit, is the whole show gonna look like that? Spoilers! No, it doesn't. But like the first half, and I would even say the first arc of this show, which is just Holmes versus Lupin, the thing with the Raven and everything, looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Overall.
I mean, I feel like TMS has always been pretty solid in their work on Lupin. So
Absolutely.
Even the parts of this show that are kind of not as strong, they still look perfectly fine.
It's okay. Well, we'll get to that once we get to the second half of this season. There are some parts in there that look pretty damn janky, and the problem is some parts that really shouldn't. Like, they should have kept the jankiness to some of the other stuff, but some of the more important plot-wise stuff looks pretty janky. And I was like, wow, this took a nosedive. It still looks better than other shows, I guess, but that, take a nosedive. But still, compared to what we see in the first half, it's just like, woof, okay, that's a bit of a shame. But aside from that, it's a really cool looking show. Like, there's this scene at the very beginning of the second half of the show where Lupin stands on a rooftop in New York. And it's like this rooftop building rooftop bathed in golden evening sunlight and everything, and it looks super gorgeous. And I was like, man, this is a really good looking show. And right after that, the quality kind of slowly devolves. And I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that out loud, I guess. So I guess I'm to blame. But yeah, it's everything before that looks pretty damn good. And the OP, as expected, is once in a lifetime, again, pure style, great stuff. Like, I can't complain. We even get a slight mix-up of that in the second half, although I prefer the first half's version. And with the red was more stylish and everything, and like the more shadowy stuff.
Yeah, it's more striking.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about the endings? I think the second one, I guess, was a bit better in terms of...
Yeah, I really kind of liked, what's the second ending called? Bitter Rain, yeah. I kind of like that a little bit better than Milk Tea.
Yeah, fits the story, I guess, in the second half. I mean, the first one is also neat, but that's also more like a, hey, here's Fujiko being cute, I guess.
Yeah. And
the second one is more related to what's actually happening in the story, which is, we'll get to that. But yeah, the first half, like we already said, it's mostly Holmes and Lupin being at odds for a while and then kind of working together, but also not, to uncover the mystery behind the Raven. Then interspliced in these main plot episodes that are subtitled Holmes versus Lupin III, we have some one-off stories, ostensible one-off stories.
There's a lot of one-off stories.
Yeah, kind of all parts of Lupin have been doing that to an extent. Lupin Part 5 was all about that, but it felt like it was more easy to follow, and by his jackets changing and everything, you could determine, okay, this is actual, this is now maybe continuing that storyline and so on. I mean, they had a main plot in that with actual current Lupin.
Part 5, though, it had, 3 or 4 smaller stories, and it kept them contained. Like in between each one, we had like the throwback / fan service episodes, and that's fine. But the fact that they were between and didn't like wedge themselves in the middle and break up the flow of the story that was being told, that was fine. Here it happens all the time.
Yeah, and that's super weird.
And I got so sick of it.
And super weird places. The second half even more so than the first, and we'll get to that. But yeah, it's like we get 3-4 episodes of the main plot, and then there's a couple of in-betweeners, and then I guess the rest of the Holmes versus Lupin plot. And then starts the second arc of this season, and then we get 4 ostensible. I say this again because you will see. Holy shit. But, then they have like a couple of ostensible one-offs again.
Can we just mention... We don't have to go deep on it. Can we mention the episode where Fujiko is charged with duty by the Archangel Michael to steal a fossil for God? Can we mention that?
It was so fucking weird. I mean, there were parts in that I liked. I was like, hey, okay, Lupin has always done the occasional weird supernatural bullshit thing.
No, but but this was like...
It felt wildly out of place. I like the atmosphere. Like
saw people talking about, this episode is written by Mamoru Oishi, and it's like, okay, all right, sure. And then we got to it, and I was like, what did I just watch, dude? What?
Yeah, it's like, why is she stealing a skeleton of Lucifer from a museum? Wasn't even Michael.
And maybe Lupin is possessed during it, but not really, because it's apparently all in her head. Jesus.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense at all. It didn't fit into the story or anything. It was just a weird... For me, it was fun episode with eerie atmosphere, like that duck or goose or what it was staring over Mihail's shoulder with his glowing eyes during the conversation with Fujiko. It was fucking haunting. I was like, just stop staring at me, you creepy thing.
Like, we go back to the end of part 4 with the weird Da Vinci stuff, and like,
yeah,
okay, fine, it was weird, but I feel like I was able to cross over that hump. Here we get to this, and it's like, okay, dude, all right, sure, fine, you can have your weird bird stories, and maybe God is involved, but like,
I think the main problem is that it's so weirdly structured, like that it is in the middle of this main plot thing.
But it's not. There's 3 filler episodes before that. 3.
Yes.
Hold on. 1, 2. Okay, no, there's 2 before that, and there's 3 before that.
That's what I mean. It's like that but they're in the middle. They're like the break between the main plot. And then the next arc starts, and then we get more filler episodes. I think it would have probably been better if they stuck them all in the middle there. Because then it would have been this chunk, but we would have two straightforward, kind of normally written plots. And then we would have the break with the one-offs, which you could easily then skip if you didn't want to check that out. But like this way, it's really weird. And what is even more weirder is there is an episode in there with Jigen, which I really liked. That is a flashback to when he was protecting Lily without her knowing it. By dressing up one of her classmates as her and using him as a double and so on, but protecting her from assassins and so on. And that is obviously a part of the storyline of Lupin versus Holmes. It's Lily is in there, everyone is in there that is relevant, but for some reason it doesn't have the subtitle.
No.
Just because it's a flashback? I was like, what? Why is that not considered part of the main plot? It's obviously part of it.
Because it doesn't revolve around Lupin and Holmes.
I guess. But the thing is, Lupin is in there.
No, you're absolutely right, but...
and the character relates to Holmes is in there. It's just Jigen is the main focus. But, okay, so then it doesn't belong to the plot. What?
Shut up. Don't worry about it.
Weirdly enough, it's one of the best episodes in the season, in my opinion. I like that one, and
it's really good.
All the Jigen episodes are great. I think there are 2 where he's the sole main focus. I think the other one is with the Lady Doctor. That's also great. Like, I liked his episodes that focus on him really a lot. Also, episode 0. That was also really good. So yeah, I think this is if you want to see good Jigen stuff, this is the season for you. The Goemon and Fujiko episodes, nah, but Jigen stuff was really good.
Yeah, you're right, but now you got me thinking about the episodes where Lupin and Goemon get stuck in like VR and sent to the past. Like what? Because they're looking for some thief.
Yeah, I remember.
The Mask or Black Lizard or what? It's like, oh,
it was another one of those weird episodes where it's like, what are you? Who?
Also, Jigen may have been a Nazi in this alternate universe. Like,
yeah, it's this thing where they're like, no, these characters just look like them, and that's kind of it. They're being cute about it, but it's so weird and out there. It's like, okay, just do your thing, but this doesn't make any fucking sense. Which episode I also liked was the diner full of killers. Which was pretty neat. It's kind of like this more dialogue-heavy Tarantino-esque thing, really. Like very Hateful Eight, I guess. Also, apparently inspired by Ernest Hemingway's The Killers, I guess. Because it's actually about that book. And it was also a bit weirdly structured, because it starts like with this long conversation piece in the dinner, then there's a shootout, and then there's not really that much happening anymore, I guess, except from Fujiko shooting that one guy. But yeah, it was that I like that episode a lot. They even put a Golgo 13 reference in there with not Duke Togo. I think here he's named Juzo Togo, but it's obviously him.
You're right. I didn't think of that at the time.
Yeah, it's obviously the main character of Golgo 13. But that was fun. That was a fun reference thing, and I liked that one-off episode a lot. Maybe again they should have maybe stuck it in a different spot, but it was pretty neat. Yeah, but so aside from those, we have in the first arc, how many episodes are, if we also consider count the one with Jigen, that is obviously part of that. Is it like 7 episodes?
It is 7 episodes.
7 episodes of Home vs. Lupin. And I feel like they didn't tell us much story in those 7 episodes as they could have. Like the plot of that arc is kind of goddamn thin.
What plot?
Yeah, there is not. I mean, there is a mystery, but it's not like they're making great progress in one episode. Like Holmes surely analyzes stuff and goes around and confronts stuff, and the executioner does some things, but it's not like they're like these huge twists or turns and plot developments. Just like, no, here's this, and now Lupin appears, and now he clashes with Holmes, and then they have a shootout with another character that attacks Holmes, and then Zenigata appears, and there's that. And we always know that they have to get at some point to the mystery who is behind the Raven thing, and I expected them to reveal the identity of the executioner much earlier, and then from there go to uncovering the whole organization and fight them and everything. But that doesn't happen. Like, they stretch the reveal of the identity of Watson's killer, who is the executioner of the Raven organization, until the very end of that arc. And then they reveal it, and it's like, yeah, that's how it is. And then he dies, and then the arc is over, and it's like, what?
Yeah. God, it's like, oh, suddenly we found the killer. Suddenly he's dead. Huh?
And we can't say who it is because, like I said, it's spoilers. It's Holmes' police buddy Lestrade. I always thought he was called Lestrade, but I might be my mistake. So Lestrade.
Different pronunciations.
Yeah, that's how they pronounce it in Japanese. So let's go with that. But it's also, I mean, I get it. It's kind of this tragic thing because he didn't want to kill Watson, and he has big sympathy for Lily and for Holmes, and they have a long relationship and everything. But it's not like they do anything with that, really. Like, they reveal it, and then he tries to get away, and then he blows himself up, and it's just like, okay, that's that. There's a really cool hand-to-hand fight that is staged between Holmes and Lupin, because like they're playing Lestrade for a chance, or they're trying to trigger Lily's memory so that she remembers that her father got out of the car because he saw Lestrade. That's why. That's what they're actually doing in this weird, convoluted, dumb way. Like they do so many weird things to trigger her memory. Some really downright problematic ones. Like,
don't you think that it kind of has the implication that they knew all along that it was Lestrade?
I don't know. Maybe.
In which case, why did they have to do this song and dance?
I guess because they needed her as a witness, because they didn't have anything solid on him, and they needed her to confirm his identity because they weren't sure they could, I don't know, lure him into revealing it himself. I don't know. It's super weird, and like I said, it's a bit of a dick move by Sherlock Holmes and by Lupin to get Lily into physical and psychological distress multiple times. So just so that she remembers the killer. Like, Sherlock Holmes, you're a bad foster father, whatever. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Stop torturing that girl. Like, they stage it like Lupin killed Sherlock in the final episode, so that scene of Lestrade hunching over Sherlock's body and being distressed triggers the memory for Lily of Lestrade hunching over her father's dead body or whatever. I don't remember quite how it went, but that was their plan. It's like, wow, that's a stretch, guys. Like, how did you pull that off? That is super, like, this. They play this fucking community theater thing, and then for some reason that staged thing works, and it's super weird. and then Lestrade is like, Lily, shut the fuck up, and he's like, and then he runs away and then jumps off the bridge and blows himself up, and the fucking arc is over. And oh yeah, by the way, the Black Room was just. What was it? They had leftover ammunition from the Second World War there, but it wasn't working anymore, so it's worthless. And that's it. And we don't actually learn who tasked Lestrade with that, who is actually in the background, who is part of the Raven. I mean, they might want to keep that for future seasons, but I don't think so. Unless they want to do a Sherlock Holmes spin-off, which could also be the case.
I mean, we got to a point where Moriarty is in here, so they don't do anything with him.
Is Moriarty in there?
He absolutely is. The Baker Street boy, James Moriarty.
Oh, fucking shit. Really? I'm completely missed that.
He was absolutely in there, and I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, and nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Wow. Which episode was that?
That was like episode 12, and then I think he appears like maybe one more time towards the end of the show. And he's just like, he's there, and that's it. It's like,
Oh, he's the professor guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch his full name. I already was like, oh, he's probably going to be the main antagonist in the next season, because he's like, oh, got to meet the professor. And he's like, I have plans for Lupin. I need him in the picture for now, so he can't die. And I was, oh, that was Moriarty. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Lupin reveals Watson's final request was for Holmes to watch over Lily, and sometimes later Holmes returns to take on more high-profile cases with Lily as his partner. Lupin also meets the Baker Street boy, James Moriarty, who is revealed to be the mysterious professor, warning Lupin to stay out of his way. Oh. And then Lupin's like, yo, I'm out. I'm out of here. See you.
Was that in a post-credits scene?
I don't remember.
Maybe I skipped past that.
I remember this scene in particular. I don't remember if it was post-credits. I don't think it was.
I remember Jigen and Goemon, I think, or Fujiko meeting up with the professor and talking to him in the second arc of this season. But I don't remember Lupin meeting him. So for some reason, I missed that somehow, which is weird.
I was also hoping that I was kind of hoping that there would be a little bit more ties to the actual Sherlock Holmes literature. Like, as far as I know, Lestrade does not kill Watson in any of Doyle's books. And apparently, the only two things I could turn up for the Raven Society are there's an honor society at the University of Virginia, and apparently there's a Raven Society that is an underground extremist group that aims to overthrow the United Kingdom government in Pennyworth. I'm Googling it and I'm looking up and I'm like, oh, this show existed, huh?
I mean, maybe it's a thing that is actually, has its roots in some parts of British history to some extent, or it's one of those more famous urban myths or something like that, conspiracy theories. And that's why they put it in there, and it's not necessarily tied to the Sherlock Holmes mythos, but something for Britain in general, or London. But yeah, it was weird, and it was weird that they didn't really do anything with it. And I wasn't even sure if the guy from, was it MI6 or CIA or whatever, was actually now also a member of them, or if he was just part of the staged theater act.
Sure.
It was so weird at the end that I was okay, was that part of the con, or is he really one of the bad guys? I can't tell. So
it was not clear.
There's some other references in there. I think Akishi Kogoro makes an appearance.
Yeah, it was in the traveling back to the past in VR episode, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And there's a who of pop culture detectives and killers and everything. So we had a bunch of those. We had some literal references. We had some... what else was in there?
I mean, at least...
Oh, yeah, there's a reference to... they drop a small nod towards Holmes III, which was in Lupin Part 2, which we, of course, haven't covered in the show because it's a much older show. But... when they talk about Sherlock Holmes, this season, they also talk about Holmes III. Like, no, that guy was a phony. This is the real deal. It's like, okay, all right. But that was neat. Yeah. So there's a bunch of, at least on the sidelines, there are a bunch of neat little references here. There. So if you're into that kind of stuff and also into the Lupin mythology, then you might like that. You might get a dig out of that.
I mean, they even touch really briefly on the Baker Street irregulars, who were only in like 3 Sherlock Holmes stories, but that's still the literary references in the front half of Part 6 are that's good stuff for the most part. It's just a lot of what surrounds it is.
Yeah, and then we have one of like the railway episode, like the first filler episode in the Holmes versus art, which was really bad.
Yeah,
so, I didn't need that. But yeah, I think I wouldn't have minded so much, not the weird structure and everything, if the first arc didn't end on such a weird limp note.
Yeah.
I love the arc in it. I can't say love. I liked the arc in itself, or at least the setup and what it was trying to do, but then it didn't do anything really with that. Like, it tries to set up a bigger mystery that is not really one, and then they do like, hey, no, Lestrade is the killer, and we needed 7 episodes to reveal that for some reason, and now we're done with this story. And it's like, you could have done that in 3 and done some more interesting stuff with this constellation of characters. Like, Lily could have been prior to some information that was more important than that or whatever, and then she gets kidnapped by the Raven or whatever, and they have to rescue her. I don't know. There could have been some more conspiracy stuff in there and Cape and Cowl shit. That would have been neat. Like, the basic building blocks were there. They just didn't use them. They just told a very, very simple kind of mystery story that was not really that hard to decipher, but also, it wasn't really that surprising. And it doesn't need to be, but there needs to be something that makes it feel earned and that makes it feel worthwhile. And I feel by the end of this arc, that's not what they did. Like, I just expected them to do more with what they had here, and they didn't. We don't continue with these characters, like with these particular characters on the London side, I think. Like, the British part is only in the first half of the show.
Yeah, it's like a hard cutoff, and then we go to the back half of the show, which...
So that the second half of the show, the main plot of that, is called Witch and Gentleman, again, with the subtitle. Also not consistent.
Nope.
Even more so than the first arc, because we'll get to that. So yeah, there's this weird thing set up, like Lupin witnesses, or one of Lupin's team's heists is interrupted by like this gang of ostensible clone women, which later turn out to just be dressed up as the leader of their gang so that she has, that nobody knows who of these characters, of these people she actually is, so she can't get taken out. So it's basically a security thing. That's why she has all the women and men in her crew dress up as herself. But but she mentions a name, or even before that, there are some hints dropped at someone from Lupin's past, who he calls mother in the beginning, at least. Though then he quickly says she wasn't my real mother; she was just my teacher, I guess, who taught me a lot about everything, fighting. Fighting, stealing, whatever, like probably reading also. And and we're like, oh, that's interesting. We're finally gonna go into Lupin's past. That's cool. I don't remember. I mean, I haven't checked out any of the movies, but I feel like the shows, at least those we watched, haven't really bothered with that so far, which is fine. But it's always nice if a show goes there and it's like, okay, now we're gonna give some background to these characters after you've seen a while, and maybe let you see how they became the way they are right now. So show you some sides of them that you haven't seen that. But immediately it's like, okay, maybe the show don't want to bother with that, because we never see Lupin like from a third-person perspective. We only see his stuff from his view. It's almost like the show is like, no, we're not going to show you a young Lupin because, I don't know, for some reason we don't want to or we can't. And we're not going to have him talk or anything. There's just going to be some weird flashback memory things. Which makes sense in one aspect of what the story is trying to do later on. But still, it was like, immediately it's like, oh, okay, so this is just going to be a bit of a cop-out here. And then it's basically... I don't even know what the show is doing at this point. I had to feel like, okay, so it's obvious if they drop that name of that person here, that she's probably still alive, even though Lupin says she was killed because she stole something from the vault or whatever of his grandfather. She was Lupin's caretaker, hired by his grandfather, but then she apparently tried to steal something from the vault, and it looks like she got shot and fell off a cliff. But now the woman that interrupts Lupin's heists, and after they capture her, she drops her name as well, and it's like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So maybe, and she says she was also her teacher and her mother in a way. It's like, oh, okay, so she's still probably alive, and she's probably the new person in the shadows here, that the puppet master that for some reason is trying to steal certain things or something, or trying to interrupt Lupin's whatever the stuff Lupin does for a reason, and now they're trying to uncover what that is and what she's trying to do and who is involved with that. So I got that was pretty clear from the get-go. But then they don't really, for like 3 episodes or 4 episodes, they don't really do anything with that. Instead, there's like, oh, here's this flower girl Lupin meets.
They like dance around it a lot.
Yes, they dance around it a lot.
They don't commit to it. And there's at least one episode that I like in this bunch, and it's the one where Goemon gets to be a fashionista on the runway.
Yes.
And that episode is fun. It
is super fun, yes. Not super well animated, but it's funny that he considers that training as well.
Yes.
And it actually has them evolve.
And it's just everything else that they can't seem to stick to a through line on either of these arcs. And like, I guess that wouldn't bother me so much if they were at the end, they're like, oh, yeah, what, you didn't pick up the breadcrumbs we were putting down all along? And it's like, no, because they were scattered so far apart that none of it made sense, dude.
Yes, yeah, we'll get to that. But so the other one of episode I liked was, I said this before, was with Jigen and the Lady Doctor, which is also in this part. And yeah, the fashion show with Goemon was fun. The Fujiko episode was also alright, I guess, with her old childhood friend.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
It was better than...
Yeah. than other
yes
things, but not by a lot. It's true. It's all right. And I think the most thing I liked about the fashion episode is that Goemon literally cock-blocked Lupin by preventing him from stealing the collection, which was kind of funny just in
funny.
itself, even without knowing it. So, and I guess the fangirl episode was also cute, like, Lupin having like this fangirl lady, and there's some nice focus on building teamwork in that episode and so on, that wasn't bad. It wasn't like, oh god, why are these episodes existing? It was like, why are they here at this moment? That was the main problem. And yeah, it becomes clear pretty quickly that there's more to Matea, the flower girl that Lupin meets in the first episode of this new arc, than meets the eye. At the beginning, I was assuming that she's probably Tomoe's real daughter because, the other lady thief says something about, no, she has a real kid and so on. At least she went on about it. And it was like, oh, is that her then? And the thing is, they try to play it again. They try to be coy and everything. Oh, she's just here also in, where was it? I don't know, Prague or something. She's also here by accident. Oh, because she wanted to go on a vacation. And I'm like, yeah, guys, you're not, what?
Who could have imagined?
Yeah, that one character we've never met before. And now she has been featured in 3 episodes for some reason. Oh, she's probably not important. Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, she has a lot of screen time and conveniently appears everywhere where the main plot happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's also the point where the production values tank, which unluckily coincide with her big heel turn moment, where she attacks one of Zenigata's team, Ari, who is one of his officers. Have we met Ari and Yata before? No, right?
Yata, yes. I don't think Ari we have.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, they're part of Zenigata's crew, and Ari and Yata have a thing going on after a while. But Ari investigates a murder of a politician in a country that, Lupin visits to find out more if Tomo is still alive and whatever. His teacher is still alive. And she comes too close to the truth. Like, she talks to Matea and kind of makes her trip up when she talks about evidence photos. And then apparently Matea stabs her or whatever. And that scene where she appears behind her with like this armband where she probably wanted to strangle her or whatever. That looks so janky. Like, her dead eye look when she's attempted to take out Ari was just so weirdly directed and edited that it made me laugh. She was just like, huh! Like, what the fuck is happening?
I would honestly have to rewatch that because I don't remember explicitly.
Yeah, I don't know. It was memorable for me because I was like, what the fuck are you doing, guys? This is... Wow, okay. This needed to be framed a bit better. So that was weird. But yeah, and then the thing is, we had these in the previous arc. We had unrelated filler episodes, and now in this arc, they also throw in filler episodes. So obviously, the way they are set up, the way the tone differs completely from the main plot episodes. You obviously are made to think, oh, these are also filler episodes. They're not that important. It's just a bit of character development, I guess. Fujiko meets an old friend. There's the fashion show with Goemon. There's the Jigen stuff, and so on, right? All of these seem like they're, again, one-off. Some better, some not so good, maybe, I guess. But, again, one-offs, not related to the main story. Also, weirdly placed. Like, after Ari gets stabbed, and you don't know, did she survive? And she hands Zenigata like this recording for Lupin. And she's like, you need to give that to Lupin. And then she loses consciousness and maybe is dead. And then after that, they throw in this ostensibly unrelated Fujiko-centric episode after this grim cliffhanger, and it's a super goofy overall episode. It gets a bit more grim at the end, I guess. But it feels completely out of place. Like, entirely. Entirely different mood. Dissolves all suspense that was built up here. So, at that point I was like, oh, I would recommend skipping these if you watch this. Because this just puts the foot on the brakes for the main plot and for the entire show. So, just skip those. Watch them at an earlier point. It's not that the episode in itself is bad, but it completely grinds the main plot to a halt that just gained some momentum by the confrontation between Matea and Ari. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess they want to have 24 episodes, but, these are the downsides of having to adhere to a standardized season length, if you only have real story material for half of that. And I was like, yeah, okay, maybe put all the one-offs in the middle of the season, like I told you before, so that it starts and ends in a strong and consistent way and has a good build-up.
Right.
And again, I didn't feel that way I felt at that point in the show about part 5, even though that also had a lot of one-off episodes. But like you said, they were more self-contained, and they were more like fan service throwback episodes. Lupin has a different jacket in each of them, and his behavior differs a bit. So like, oh, this is from that era of Lupin, and that's how his character was built then, and that's how that story is set up, and that the tone shifts because of that. And not because just, hey, we had to have a filler episode in here. I think part 5 was maybe more episodic in general, and that's why it didn't bother me. Or they had a better rhythm there. I just, you said so in the beginning of this review what you think was the reason. I still can't determine for myself.
I think it was just because the main plots went uninterrupted.
Maybe, yeah.
Because here, it's like they can't get away from the main plot fast enough.
Yeah, it's super weird.
It's like they knew.
Hot cut. Yeah. It's
like, I honestly feel like I probably would have enjoyed this a lot more if it was just the plot-relevant episodes, or if it was all one-offs. They weren't afraid to do that back in, like, parts 1, 2, and 3.
I guess, yeah.
But also, I think those were much longer than, 26 episodes.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, so this structure is already super weird. And then we get into the final stretch of the episodes. And then, again, there's another episode called My Mother's Documents. Completely different tone from the one-offs that we had before. There was like this weird mermaid episode. Like, super goofy, ultra lighthearted. And then we fucking switch over to an episode that is about a girl whose mother apparently got raped. And then, I don't know, died when giving birth to her daughter, or she shot her rapist and another boy in school. I'm not sure what happened, because it's this super weird, dark episode. And I'm like, what the fuck is it? But it's also ostensibly related to the main plot, because all the characters, like Matea is in there, Lupin, everyone is in there. And then there's this character, Finn, we've never met before. But also, again, it doesn't have the subtitle, The Witch and the Gentleman. And I'm like, what is this?
Apparently Tomoe had a hand in, applying hypnosis to someone.
Yes, that's the thing we get a clue on finally in this episode, that Tomoe apparently has been going around for some reason and has been hypnotizing women. And that gets expanded on in the next episode even more so. Apparently she went and convinced or deep coded whatever, put some deep subconscious imprints on some women to meet Lupin and then tell him a specific part of a poem they shared when Lupin was still a kid. And each part of the poem, when they are complete, when he has heard all parts of it from all these different women, it will trigger an implanted memory of hers in his mind, and he will be brainwashed and return to her for some reason.
It's the stupidest, most roundabout. And I got to a point where I was like, so you mean to tell me that all of this was in service of saying that Lupin may or may not have been a sleeper agent for a woman who may or may not be his mother? This makes zero sense. absolute hogwash.
It's ridiculous. It's super dumb. It's like, okay, why did you jump through so many hoops? If you had implanted that fucking phrase in him, just fucking send him an audio recording.
Right?
And then play it. Like, what the fuck? Why did you rope in like 6 different women to do this shit?
And why now when you apparently could have done it any time?
Yeah, and at that point I was like, no, actually, that was not the case. You only said that because you wanted to connect the weird one-off stories that have had, in concept probably, when people came up with it for this season, had nothing to do with the main plot. Nothing at all. But you, for some reason, wanted to connect them to the main plot of the story, and then just were like, in the final stretch of the episodes, yeah, all these women that weren't even necessarily talking to you, Lupin, but that you have met because Jigen met them, or because Goemon met them, you also met them. And at some point, they come into contact with you and say a specific word to you, and that was my master plan. And now your mind is overwritten, and you go against your friends, and you are under my control. For what purpose? No fucking idea, because I won't tell you that, because I won't explain that, because it's very vague. Maybe I want you to steal stuff from me. Maybe I just want a son? I don't fucking know.
I can't. All right, let me try this thought again. I would defy anyone who watched this season or anyone listening to this right now to tell me you were able to follow this from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I would defy you to tell me that, because everything about this is absolutely nonsensical.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like, okay, this is so fucking contrived, and the odds are so fucking impossible that these women were steered in a specific place, that they would meet up with Lupin at a specific time to give him the fucking trigger phrases in the exact order they needed to.
No, shut up. It's going to happen because I planned it that way. It's going to happen.
It's so stupid.
Tomoe, what?
Like, and, you know, we had, like, we go into Lupin's mind space, and we see him have this conversation with Tomoe, and it's this dark brooding thing. We see, oh shit, he's completely hexed by her, and he actually attacks his friend, and so on. And it's like, wow, okay, this is going, and it's kind of questioning something about his character. And the thing is, Lupin has kind of done this kind of shit before, where it gets, you know, in this season even, we said the stuff with Lucifer, but that wasn't necessarily related to Lupin. But also at the end of Lupin 4, like you said, it gets weird with the Leonardo da Vinci stuff. And that also didn't work. That was the weak part of Lupin Part 4. Where it went like into this weird metaphysical, esoteric, weirdly dark story. These story beats never seem to properly work out in Lupin. Partially because it clashes so much with the usual tone of the show, I guess, even though, you know, the home stuff was also dark, but in a different way. It's more of a straightforward, hardball detective shit. And that works for Lupin, because, you know, thief and so on, that works. But when it gets weirdly sci-fi-y, fantasy-y, with this weird psychological component, then I don't know, it doesn't work. Also, it suddenly makes Lupin behave like a completely different character from his usual self. And it's just not well written and built up. It feels like it comes out of nowhere several times. The darker tone of the Jigen episodes work because that's very fitting to his character. He's the hardballed lone gunman dude.
Right.
But Lupin is the wacky smirk on his face trickster guy who always, you know, one-ups other characters. And I guess they wanted to build up Tomoe as like this formidable foe who, for once, can one-up Lupin because she has planned in advance more. She is his teacher. She knows his every move. But then they would have had to make that like a much more... They would have made her needed to make her presence much more
than nothing.
Dominant in the show.
You have to make her presence more than nothing?
Exactly, yeah. She had to be around. She had like be in the shadows. Maybe escape. Suddenly, Lupin thinks he sees her, but then she's gone or something like that. And, you know, he almost catches her or something. Then she gets away from him again. And they have a confrontation. There's actual duel of wits and stuff like that. And we kind of get that at the end of the show, I guess, but also not, because Lupin immediately, pretty quickly is revealed that he was fooling her the entire time. Like, he was under her spell for a bit, but then he got back to his senses because of his friends, which is nice. I'm gonna say that. And that is the only thing in here that makes sense. That the people who pull him out of this what pulls him out of this are the memories of his friends. Because he has spent so much time with them at this point that, of course, the memories of them have the best chance to interfere with the implanted memories of Tomoe, which go a bit farther back. But,
also catching a bullet from Matea may have helped.
I mean, you mean to wake him up?
Yes.
No, he said he was woken up before that. He said he already went to the house knowing full well. Fujiko confronts him about it. She did say, were you already aware when we met in the street and you said that you didn't care about me? It's like, no, then I was still under the spell. But after that, I had a confrontation with all of you in my mind and everything, and you got me out of it. I think that's how it went. I think when he got to the house, he already was back to his senses.
Like,
pretty sure.
He says that, but, I'm also not 100% sure I believe that.
He's an unreliable narrator. Narrator. That's true. He could be fucking with them. That is also the case. But
we can also only go on the strength of what was written and committed to the page, so.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But if I go by what Lupin says, he at that point had already, again, outmatched Tomoe's games. So it wasn't really an eye-to-eye thing again. It's
so weird because we only ever see Tomoe in flashbacks, and then she's there for an episode and a half, and it's like, well, who cared?
And again, it's like we see, like you said, we see nothing of her. And retrospectively, the one thing we learn is, yes, she planned all of this, and that all the one-off episodes are actually connected. Again, which is like the super weird approach, because those episodes had such a completely different tone and just felt like they don't matter to the main plot at all. And, now retroactively pulling all those goofy one-off stories into this weirdly dark plotline feels incredibly contrived. Like, you're telling me that the funky fashion lady, Lupin's horny stalker, and that mermaid chick were all programmed by weird Mama Tomoe at some point? I mean, come on.
Yes.
Why? How?
Shut up. Yes.
Fujiko's friend I buy, because we learned that she and her friends were sold by Grayson, so she was maybe sold to Tomoe or whatever. But the rest, like, again, just comes out of nowhere. And also it's like, okay, I have to believe that you orchestrated all of this. But now that you're actually found out, you don't have a fallback plan? You are not smart enough to, like, account for the possibility that either Lupin is smart enough to pull himself out of your programming, or that his friends were able to do it, someone else, whatever. Like, she's completely flabbergasted, and she's like, I will try it again, but she becomes this cackling villain archetype, which I hate in these situations, because it's like, okay, you just don't know what to do with this character anymore. Right. You just throw her off the fucking cliff. It's like, what?
Kind of threw your hands up and said, okay, we're done.
Okay, we're done. Unless I missed something. It's like they had a bunch of writers that wrote a bunch of standalone stories that definitely were set up and felt like standalone stories, just like the ones in the first half. But they were like, no, we need to make them all be connected retroactively, which just doesn't work on so many levels. Like, it's such a weird fucking choice. And what is the message here? Like, that the women in Lupin's life are his doom? Like, what is this?
It seems...
Yeah, combined with the ED and everything, it's like, okay, beware, Lupin.
Watch out for those ladies. Ugh.
Watch out for these females. The F stands for female. If Babylon has told us anything, then that.
Again. No.
Yeah, it's super weird. Again, I like that his friends are the reason that Lupin could shake off Tomoe's programming. It makes sense. They have been his anchor for so long, so they would be his strongest tie to reality. It's a nice sentiment. But it would have worked much better if we spent maybe like an entire episode of him trying to battle Tomoe's influence. Would have made her more of a presence, would have made her more dangerous, feel more dangerous, because she has such a tight grip on him. But yeah, then the great twist that everybody saw coming a mile away, that he and the gang were just fucking with Tomoe, would have, not been possible. Oh no, what a loss would that have been. So I guess that's why they didn't do it, and just kept that reveal that he was actually not under her spell anymore until the last moment, to make this like, oh no, he's actually just playing again. He's just making theater again. So there were so many bad decisions.
Frustrating is what it is.
Yeah. I like that he just guns her down without hesitation, though.
Yeah. No, that was good. It's like all of this BS that you put Lupin through, and you just get shot like a dog. Okay, yes. Good.
I expected her to stumble backward, fall out of the window, and then disappear like Michael Myers, only to return the next season or something. But nope.
God, I hope not.
Just shoots her in cold blood. No, she's dead. They burned her ass. Like, they burned down the house, and you see her burning up in the flames. I don't think they will get her back from that. And she wasn't this real mom. They reveal that. It's like they try to be like playful with it and be like, oh, maybe she was his real mom, and nobody's believing that. It's like, no, they're not gonna. They're gonna go back to the status quo. This is just like, we're probably never gonna learn the real background. That's all what the show is about at the end. Like, that's what the final exclamation point is. Lupin throwing that weird box that apparently contains some info about his past or whatever, just throwing it into the fire and says it doesn't matter, only my current me matters. It's like, okay, whatever. And why even entertain this storyline? Why even do it? Like, none of this led to anything. We don't know any more about Lupin's past, because guess what? It doesn't matter. It never has. So why even attempt to go there if you already know that it has never defined who he is? If you really want to go into that kind of stuff, go all in. Recontextualize his character and his life choices and all that. Make him go through some trouble, through some hardships, alienate him from his entire friend, whatever. Do some really cool, gritty stuff with that. But don't do some lame mystery box bullshit that doesn't lead to anything and then completely chicken out. It's just a waste of time. Waste of my time.
It's a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah.
I was so let down by this season, especially after, I enjoyed part 4. I think part 5 is probably my favorite.
I think part 5 is one of my favorite Lupin things ever.
And then
I might even rate it above Castle of Cagliostro.
And then we get to this, and it's like... and... I don't feel like this is going to deter me from watching the inevitable part 7. But if it's more like this, dude...
I hope not. Oh, God, I hope not. Like, it's not like there weren't parts in this that I liked. Like, there was enough in there that I liked. I said that before. I thought the Jigen episodes were great. They were straightforward, hard-bolt, lone gunman stuff, like it should be for Jigen. They were well told. They had a great atmosphere. There was some stuff in the Holmes versus Lupin third arc that I liked. There was some cool action scenes in there. But especially the back half of this episode, of the season, I was like, oh God, guys, what are you doing? Where are you going with this? Oh, you're going nowhere. All right. Great. Glad we did that journey together. Like, I mean, it's nice, again, at the end, to see that his current life and his friends are more important to him, that is the exclamation point of the show, right? Which it's like, hey, my past doesn't matter, all of this doesn't matter, I'm where I am right now, I am happy where I am right now. He's storming off with his friends in the final episode, again, from Zenigata. This, it's nice to see that those people are important to him. That is his crew, and he's happy, and Fujiko is the love of his life, whatever. But we already knew that. We have accompanied that man for quite a while now. I get that they have to return to the status quo at some point, because that's how they have been doing it forever. But it's still a shame, because if it felt like part 4 and 5 were going a bit more for long-term storytelling in parts.
Yeah.
And some lasting changes to the Lupin universe. I guess not, though, except for that he's now really heavily into drones, which...
Which, all right, cool. I mean, part 5. When did Lupin the first release? Was that before Kazuhiko Kato died? No, it was after. So I wonder. I wonder how much of his influence was actually in part 5, because surely none of it is in part 6.
Yeah. I wonder how much the team changed. I didn't look it up, but it feels like there were several different hands in here that had some different ideas. I know that the writer,
the director is different from part 4 and 5,
and I know the writer changed after the Lupin versus Holmes part for the back half of the. I looked up who the writer was.
It looked like there was a whole bunch of different writers in this season.
Yeah, but the main headline, it was mainly headlined by a guy who has wrote a show we've talked about before. I looked this up. I think it was the writer of Zombieland Saga, if I'm not mistaken.
Shigeru Mirokoshi.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I think he did the main writing for the second part, which is super weird to me because...
And he did a whole bunch of Garo stuff, like Vanishing Line.
Yeah, which is, again... I mean, I didn't look it up properly, so I don't know. You can confirm it maybe if you check if he is actually listed in the cast. But if that is the case, that is super weird to me because these shows had tightly written plots and cool character stories. And if he was the guy who orchestrated the second half of this season of Lupin, I was like, "What are you doing, dude?"
Yeah, it looks like he was the main writer on a lot of those episodes in the back half.
So. Wow, okay. I mean, if anything, Zombieland Saga has cool one-off stories that contribute very well to the main plot and the main character development of all these characters. So, where was that in this show?
What happened?
Yeah, what happened? Yeah, like you said, this was a disappointment. Sadly, I don't want to say that about Lupin show, and I haven't said that about part 4 and 5. And again, I like parts of part 6. I thought there was some good stuff in here, some funny stuff, some entertaining stuff. Even in the back half of the season, there were some good episodes. It's just that the main plots of this were so weirdly structured. Then the first one that had potential ends on this kind of weird, drawn-out limp finale. And then this thing is like the most contrived, weird bullshit that makes no sense whatsoever and doesn't do the characters any justice and any favors. So maybe some of the problem in that is that they had to return to the status quo. I don't know.
That's
maybe
kind
there's
of a lame excuse, though.
Yeah, of course. I mean, maybe some of the other Lupin products that I haven't seen yet that apparently are a bit more unconventional, maybe do it better. Like, maybe I'd have to look at the movies, which aside from Cagliostro, I haven't seen any of. But I still want to watch Jigen's Gravestone and Goemon's Bloodspray. Or shows like The Woman Called Fujikomine is also doing maybe some more outside of the box stuff with the characters that works. But I haven't checked that out either. So, maybe they tried to do something like that in this season, because maybe that was the intent. Maybe they wanted to analyze Lupin and his character and his relationship to women. The thing is, he doesn't even have a relationship to most of these women because they're actually connected to one of the other characters. One is connected to Fujiko, one is connected to Goemon, one is connected to Jigen. I think only 2 or 3 of the women that tell him these phrases are actually connected to Lupin in a way. So it's super weird. It's like, why do the story this way? It makes no fucking sense. It feels like an afterthought. It feels like they try to force these one-off stories into the main plot, and it just doesn't work. They're trying to force a triangle into a square, and it's just... It's not, or in a circle, I don't fuck. It's not working. It's not working. It's not working at all. And it's a shame that is how this season has to end. And I was so sad by the end. I was like, man, I was hoping for another good Lupin thing. And partially it was that, but in a lot of moments it wasn't. In long stretches it wasn't. And yeah. Overall, it was a mess season. It started off very promising. Some legit cool clashes between Holmes and Lupin, which, in my opinion, they could have done more with by the end. But there was some neat cloak and dagger set up with the Raven, really good animation. But then that kind of leads to nothing, or at least nothing super cool or satisfying. And after that, the animation takes a nosedive pretty quickly after the first episode of the new arc and doesn't ever really recover. And maybe the final episode is fine, but also that battle between Lupin and Matea, which was also completely superfluous and like completely shallow or hollow. Like, why did they even put that in there? It's like, wow, now Lupin has to fight Matea to do what exactly? Show her that she's worth living because Toma programmed her, but, so it wasn't her fault, so she has to live with her mistakes and the people she killed, but she can change herself now if she admits to that. Okay. They didn't have to fight for that, I guess. So what? Okay, all right. It's not like she's a super compelling character.
No.
She's in the back half a lot, but at some point, once she's revealed, she's not that important. Then we get all these side stories with the other characters, and it's like, okay, there's all right. We don't actually learn that much about her backstory and how she came to be programmed by Tomo and everything. So that's also kind of left out, and the story becomes less and less interesting and more confusing at some point, and I really hope they find their footing again in part 7 if there will be one. Like, this part 5 was so good and just did almost everything right, so this was quite a drop in overall quality after that.
It really was.
Do you have any final words on this season, John?
I don't think so, but I was thinking about this the other day. We've reviewed 3 different Lupin series now. Which one has your favorite version of the main theme?
Oh, fuck.
Because I think about this a lot, because I have on a playlist the themes from part 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I listen to them a lot, and I love them all for different reasons. But
okay, I can see that. The problem is, I would have to rewatch them, I guess. I really liked this rendition. I thought it was really, really nice. It was a good jam. I also liked the OP itself, the animation in the OP for this one. But maybe I like the 144 more. I think the 144 was really good.
Yeah, it was. The arrangement and the how perfectly it's synced to everything that's going on in the open. Oh, it's so good.
That was probably the best combination of animation and the music. So
yeah,
I'm a sucker for that.
As far as just song goes, I really like part 5's because it comes in strong with that baritone sax solo, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so good.
Yeah. So I don't know. Song-wise only, maybe this or part 5, but when it comes to the actual OP, the combination of the music and the visuals, then probably part 4.
Yeah.
But again, I'd have to rewatch them again.
I agree. I just got thinking about it, and I figured I'd throw it out there as a question to you.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's valid, and it now wants me to go back and watch all the OPs on YouTube. Which, dear listeners, if you wanted to see some good Lupin stuff, just do that. Watch the Lupin openings. Especially remember when I was in France once on vacation and saw Lupin there, and it was called Edgar for some reason.
Edgar.
Yeah. I mean, because they don't want to call a character. Saint Lupin origin is from France, so they're probably a bit hung up about that or whatever, and they didn't want to call a character Lupin. It wasn't actually related. I mean, there was some copyright battle with that in the past between Monkey Punch and the people, or the estate of the people who actually of the person who actually created the character of Arsène Lupin, the original one.
Kind of like how for a while they had to use the name Sherlock Sholmes. Yeah.
It was like, I'm glad that Sherlock Sholmes wasn't in it, but in this, but Sherlock Holmes. But Lupin had a bunch of different names in different countries. I think Castle of Cagliostro in Germany for some time it had the title, loosely translated, Hardy Man Doesn't Give Up. So his name was Hardy Man in our country for some reason. Yes. I don't know why. Hardy Man. I don't know where that originated from. Maybe we just used it from a different country to translate it first. But yeah, that happened. He is a man of many faces. Let's hope he shows us his face again, and next time it will be a more enjoyable ride, because Lupin is a cool character, Fujiko is a cool character, Goemon is a cool character, Jigen is a cool character, and I'm really happy with Akio Otsuka's portrayal of him after now he took over. He did a really good job in this season. I can't blame anything on the voice acting, the voice actors, whatever that was going wrong here, because they all did a really good job.
Well, after episode 0 and the send-off for Kiyoshi Kobayashi, I sat down and I thought about it. I really couldn't think of another suitable replacement other than Akio Otsuka, just because he's always had that very, rough grumble sound to his voice. I mean, known him forever as Solid Snake, and it's almost the same character.
Yes, that's right, actually. Yeah, it's close. We saw a lot more of Jigen's eyes in this season than in the previous ones, I feel like. So that was neat. He's a cool character. So that was a positive. Like I said, I liked this episode. So I guess if we can take anything, if we want to take anything positive out of that, Jigen had a good season, I guess. At least there's that.
Yeah, unfortunately, part 6 was kind of a mess when all things told. But Lupin will surely return in part 7. Like, I am fully confident of that. And there's also no shortage of other side and supplemental stuff, like you mentioned a few of the series. And there's a million movies. There's so much. So even if you watch it and walk away from this particular season a little there's still so many other ways to enjoy Lupin and his friends and everything that goes on in this big world that's built around him. So if you want to be really confused by some weird writing and directing choices, yeah, you can watch part 6, but I think we would both say it's fine if you skip it.
And that is a wrap on the 128th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jack Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
So long, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
The boy who would be king.
And a trip to the snowy countryside of Gévaudan reveals more than you might expect.